Today on the talking points list, we are going to be talking about rocks.
No, they're minerals.
Okay, minerals. We're going to be talking about Mineralham Speedway. On a serious note, though, Rockingham Speedway, an old NASCAR track that has not been run since 2004, is back in the news. Of course, we saw just last week North Wilkesboro Speedway made its return to NASCAR action for the first time in 27 years. Rockingham is looking to make its return to the NASCAR schedule as well. The last race in the Cup Series, as I said, 2004 when Matt Kenseth won in February of that year. And the Truck Series, I think their last race was in 2013 at Rockingham. The track that is just barely over a mile, 1.017 miles, has been a track that some NASCAR fans want to see come back, and also some people in the NASCAR world. I know a couple of drivers, owners, whoever it may be, have talked about Rockingham potentially coming back, and seeing the revival of North Wilkesboro Speedway has really amped up the talks, not just for Rockingham, but to see old NASCAR tracks come back. People have been asking which track is going to be next. Well, Rockingham's president has some insight, or has talked about Rockingham and its future potentially on the NASCAR schedule. He did an interview with WFMY News, which is a CBS affiliate, I think in North Carolina somewhere, I'm assuming, because that's where Rockingham is. It is in North Carolina. But they interviewed the president of Rockingham Speedway. He talked about the racetrack, talked about the money that they have received from the North Carolina government. Of course, the governor of North Carolina decided to give $30 million in order to kind of revamp the motorsports part of North Carolina. So to help Charlotte Motor Speedway, I believe, obviously help revive North Wilkesboro, and also Rockingham was in the mix as well, as along with other racetracks in the state of North Carolina. In 2021, Rockingham Speedway received $10 million in COVID recovery grants from the state. Charlotte Motor Speedway and North Wilkesboro Speedway were awarded similar grants. Lovenheim, which that is the name of the owner of Rockingham Speedway, used the money to lay down a new racing surface on the 1 mile speedway. Add another $10 million in upgrades out of his own pocket, and Lovenheim says this will be race ready by 2024. Also in this interview, they just kind of talked to him about North Wilkesboro, the history of it, NASCAR kind of going back to its roots, going back to short track, some of its older tracks. Of course, with North Wilkesboro probably being the main focus of what people are talking about. But then later on in the article, it says, as for the chances of a NASCAR race in 2024, Lovenheim says, I can't put a number to it. What I can say is that we are obviously in talks with everyone. I'm very hopeful and very optimistic at this point. Very interesting quote, to say the least, that it's directly about NASCAR in 2024 at Rockingham. So I don't know if that just means a Truck Series race, Xfinity, or if it even means a potential Cup Series race at Rockingham. But we saw how quickly the North Wilkesboro thing escalated. Back in August, they're running some late model races at the track, and the next thing you know, the All-Star race at Texas is gone, and North Wilkesboro is replacing it. So you never know what could happen, obviously, but it seems like that North Wilkesboro, according to the owner of the track, is in discussions with NASCAR about potentially having a race, whether, once again, I don't know if that's Trucks, Xfinity, Cup, whatever it may be, but it is NASCAR. It seems like they are in discussions about potentially hosting a race there. So obviously, we have seen over the past 25, 30 years, we have seen some of the older, more historic tracks like North Wilkesboro, like Rockingham, lose their dates on the schedule and completely be gone from NASCAR. And they have lost their dates to tracks, the new tracks that came up in the mid-90s to the early 2000s, the 1.5 mile, the cookie cutter race tracks, Texas Motor Speedway, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Kansas Speedway, Chicagoland Speedway, and then eventually on Kentucky Speedway is another example. But we have seen some of those tracks actually start to lose dates or completely leave the calendar, and some of these type of tracks come back. Of course, Chicagoland has lost its date since 2019 was their last race. Kentucky Speedway hasn't had a race since 2020. Texas Motor Speedway has been reduced to 1 race a year. Kansas still has 2 races. Vegas still has 2 races. But we've seen a couple of these racetracks, these 1.5 mile tracks that were built in the mid to late 90s, the early 2000s. They've lost their dates, and ironically, they've lost the dates that they gained dates from in the first place. Of course, Texas replaced North Wilkesboro back in the 90s, and then North Wilkesboro took the All-Star race from Texas. So the irony there. But yes, Rockingham, could it potentially make a return? I really don't know. Why? Because I didn't think North Wilkesboro would be on the schedule this year in any way, shape, or form in NASCAR. It seemed like the revival was going to happen. It seemed like North Wilkesboro would be back on the schedule at some point because they had revamped the track. They were going to do some major upgrades. They were going to have it fan ready, but I didn't think it was ready for a Cup Series event in 2023. I thought maybe 2024, but even that might be a long shot. I thought maybe a truck race, but no, they did a truck race in the Cup All-Star race. So I'm not going to make an opinion either way, because I could say, oh, well, look at what happened with North Wilkesboro. It's very possible I see it happening, and then it just doesn't. Or I could say, oh, it's not going to happen, not a chance, and then the exact same thing that happened with North Wilkesboro happens. But we saw how the response was to North Wilkesboro. There was so much hype heading into that weekend. I think it was almost a sold-out crowd, or it was a sold-out crowd. Tons of people at the truck race, tons of people at just qualifying for the All-Star race, the heats and all that, and the pit crew challenge. So the revival of North Wilkesboro brought a ton of people in. Some people were so happy to go to those races, so happy to be back at maybe their favorite track, maybe a track they haven't been to for a while, but a track that they had memories at and were able to make more memories at. And we could potentially, maybe, see that with Rockingham here. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting quote, interesting article there. About the potential future of Rockingham. Will Rockingham be back on the NASCAR schedule? Let me know in the comments if you think that there's a genuine shot that this could happen. And if so, when? Would it be as soon as 2024? Would it be later on, 2025, 2026? When would Rockingham return to the NASCAR schedule? But it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with Rockingham, to see if it's back on the NASCAR schedule at any point. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. We got a big weekend of races this weekend. We got the Monaco Grand Prix Sunday morning. We've got the Indianapolis 500 at the early afternoon. And then we got the Cup Series as well. It's supposed to be Sunday night at Charlotte, but there's currently a lot of rain forecasted. So we'll see. We'll see. I hope that we can race Sunday, but if not, we'll have a video. We'll talk about that race on Monday, the Coca-Cola 600. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.